It
Well,
does.
I'm in a really small pissant town, and I went to Walmart.
It's funny because I've never thought of Denver as a tiny little pissant town, but now
I'm
I
not
know.
in-
Now
No.
I know.
Welcome to Love and Brief, a brief ABDL podcast focused on issues of love.
Yeah.
Love for self, love for community, love for friendship,
Yep.
and love for colder weather. It is pretty
It's
warm
about
up here.
damn time, isn't it? I wish.
I know. So I am Teddy,
And I am RY.
and today we have a fun episode for you. So we have two guests that we're going to be introducing here in a minute. But when I've met a lot of folks in the age play community, there's we kind of do our own thing, and then there's the idea that maybe in the BDSM spaces they do their own thing. But really, does it have to be that way? Not really. But when you hear the word dungeon, sometimes that could be a little scary. So today we wanted to kind of talk about what it's like there and maybe demystify a few things and talk about maybe how those two worlds can kind of converge.
Yeah, and Teddy, I'm psyched about this one because we have done an episode on dark age play, but we did not talk about the dungeon experience. And when I was growing up, a dungeon was a scary thing. Or you were playing Dungeons and Dragons. Those were your two options. And so as a young adult, the thought that I would intentionally go to a place called a dungeon to have an awesome time was a new thought. And I'm guessing there are people who listen to Love and Brief who have never considered going to one.
Right.
And they might even, as you said, have this dichotomy in their head of, I'm an age player, I'm an ABDL, those aren't for me.
Right.
Well, but we're here to challenge that.
Exactly. And you'll learn too, we did an episode recently on ABDL physical stores, right? And there's a handful around the country. Go back to that episode, listen to it. It's a great, great discussion. But there's a lot more dungeons out there than there are ABDL stores.
Heck yeah.
Most cities have some sort of space to go. And so if you're, kind of sitting there thinking, oh, I want to get more involved in, the in real life community, maybe this is a step in that direction. For example, my own journey, I went to a dungeon about a year and a half ago, and I had no idea what to expect. I was scared. And when I got there, first thing we did was go through a consent class, an orientation basically. And then halfway through, I started talking to people, getting a little more comfortable, and one of them was an ABDL. And now they're one of my best friends.
Nice.
So you never know. There's different pathways to finding, these different avenues for friendship.
Love it.
So today we wanted to just kind of maybe demystify it, like I said.
Yeah, de-scary the dungeon.
De-scary the dungeon.
And you have two of those friends right here on the call with us.
We sure do. And one, and they both bring unique perspectives, which we'll get into in a minute here. But I wanted to first start with Lindsay. Lindsay, you run one of the groups out in Denver, I believe. So I'd love to hear you talk about that. But the first question I have for you is tell me about your love.
Awesome. Thank you. So happy to be on. When thinking about my love that I like to share, two things immediately came to mind lately. First, my partners. My primary partner, Lola, has been my rock and has been amazing. The life that we've started to build has been great, and exploring ABDL and all of that. And I have a couple other partners. Practicing polyamory has been really eye-opening to me and very fulfilling. But the love I've been finding I need the most lately, as someone who hosts events, it's not even just the people showing up, it's the people encouraging me to keep going. There's been a lot of roadblocks. Hosting is not easy, and I am certainly not perfect, and things have not always gone to plan. But the people who keep encouraging me to keep going, that we have a great thing, that it's going to be rough, but we can continue to build a great community, that's the love that I've been enjoying the most lately.
That's beautiful.
It is amazing how the community keeps you going at the times when you feel like it might be too much work or too much stress or whatever.
Yeah, the joy that you get from hosting an event and just seeing the smiles on people's faces, or knowing that maybe somebody who came out to the event made a friend and now they're going and having lunch together. I have no part of that as an organizer, but then they just found community.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's beautiful.
It's so good to see. That definitely brings the biggest smile to my face.
Oh, I can relate. And I'd like to welcome our second guest, Christine. Tell us about your love.
Well, my biggest love right now is just where I happen to be, which is at my cottage on a lake in western New York on Chautauqua Lake, and it is my favorite place in the entire universe to be.
That sounds amazing right now.
And I get to just sort of chill out and snuggle with my cat a lot and just be a crazy cat lady and not worry about work over in Denver. This is my
Yeah.
vacation. So I'm loving being here, and I'm loving the weather and loving my cat and loving downtime. And that's my biggest thing
Yeah.
right now. It's my recharge time being here.
That's great.
Sitting by a lake with your cat. I'm not a
I know how much you love cats.
Yeah, I'm not a
RY.
cat person, so I'm going to say sitting by the lake with my dog. Sounds
There you go.
brilliant right now. Brilliant.
I'll take the cat.
You can
And
have the
it
cat.
was only 72 degrees here today, and it was in the
Oh,
90s in
stop it.
Denver. So I'm
Significantly cooler than this room.
This
so
room is
happy to be here.
85 minimum.
Oh,
So
no.
jealous.
Yeah, you should be. You should be. I'm in the best place could be.
So, Christine, I'd love to get back to you in a second here about your story, but I figured we start with Lindsay. So I kind of teed up a little bit about, what you do in Denver, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective. So you run some groups. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do out there and some of the fun things you guys get up to?
Oh, goodness. Yes. So I joined the community in 2019, actually New Year's 2019, and it has been a roller coaster since then. I joined up here in Denver. I found the local group, the DLC, the Denver Littles Crawl. And within a few months, I made some of the best friends. I was really eager to help out and keep things moving, so I got asked to come in and help organize. A few months later, we got some dungeon parties started, which I think we'll discuss in a minute. But then the original organizers stepped away to run our local store. I think you've had them on before, and they kind of handed the baton over to me. And some of the others that I've gotten to work with were always bringing new people in. Some people leave. But I've stuck with it, and it has been such a privilege to get to do this and host munches and parties and bring our community in Denver together.
I should say for our international listeners, there is more than one city in America. we talk about Denver a lot because there's a lot of ABDL folk and a lot of action out there, but there is more than one city. We just happen to be looking at a Denver connection today.
There's exciting things out there everywhere.
But I love this, and I love that you were able to take the reins and turn it into its own thing, something that you can own and continue to grow the community.
Yeah, it's been so wonderful and fulfilling. And I am one of the rare locals as well, born and raised here. So I just discovered that this community was already here, and I had no idea. So I did not move here for the community. I got lucky, and
Maybe they moved there for you.
Was here.
Could be. I've shared this before, but I deeply believe that if there was a little Sims-style dot over people's heads that told you who was an ABDL, I think we would all be stunned when we looked around. I bet any community in the country.
A plumb bob?
Could be. The
plumb bob.
Is that what it's called, the plumb bob?
Yep.
Yeah, I think any community in the country could be a hub. It's just that Denver found itself. AB Dealer came and magnetized some fantastic leaders out there.
Right.
But if you're in, Poughkeepsie or you are in San Diego, I bet you are surrounded by ABDL folk.
Right. I mean, Denver has the physical space with the store, with events. It has the dungeon nights that we'll talk about in this episode, and also the Munch series, which Lindsay just talked about. So I think those three things together, anywhere could do that. That is a possibility. It just happens to be a great space right now. But there's exciting things in every part of the country, every part of the world.
You've been to every part of the country, and you've seen them.
I actually have, yes. All right. Well, Christine, I wanted to bring you in here and kind of talk about your story a little bit. So, and I'll let you tell your own story, of course, but my understanding is that you have owned a dungeon space in Denver for a very long time now. So I'd love to hear kind of a little bit of the history of what you've done, and feel free to name it and talk about whatever you feel is worth mentioning.
Well, I moved to Denver in 2001 and got involved in the local kink community then. And became involved in various groups, and there were a couple of dungeons running at that time. And then in 2006, one of the dungeons, the owners needed to move on to other things and tagged me and said, "Hey, we need to close the dungeon unless you want to take it over." And I'll be honest, taking over a dungeon at the time was not in my game plan. I had a 10-year-old and a 10-month-old, and I didn't think owning a dungeon would be appropriate or viable.
I debated whether or not to buy a trampoline, and you were getting a dungeon. Amazing.
Well, the thing is, at the time, I had gone back to work as a hairstylist, and carpal tunnel was setting in. And then as I was sitting with the owners of what was then the Denver Harbor, I'm thinking I can't own a dungeon. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute, I could put a theater in here because theater is my other passion. And so I bit the bullet and took over their dungeon, and I ran it as just the dungeon, changed the name to Denver Sanctuary. And a year and a half or so after running just the dungeon in there, the landlord was willing to give me my own lease. So I then also opened a theater in the same space as the dungeon and kind of ran both at the same time.
Wow.
And that was in 2006. February of 2006 is when I took over, or March of 2006, is when I took over and became the Denver Sanctuary. And then I opened what was Dangerous Theater in August of 2007.
Wow.
And I've been running it
Amazing.
since then.
So it's been 18 and a half years of running a dungeon.
Yeah.
Didn't somebody say when I was out there that that's one of, if not the longest running dungeons in one space in the U.S.?
I don't know that there's any others that have been running as long in the same space with the same owner.
Yeah.
Earlier you said something about how there's probably a dungeon in your city, and I just want to say that that's not really an accurate statement. There are really not a lot of dungeon spaces like mine available, except in really large cities. And even then, some of those have gotten closed down or shut down. It is not easy to own a dungeon. A lot of times just because of things like zoning and permitting and cities, because you have to be able to go and say, hi, I want a zoning permit to put in a dungeon.
Yeah,
and a lot of times they're going to go, no. The other thing is finding a landlord that is going to let you have a dungeon space. A lot of times they're going to be like, you want a what? Yeah, I don't think so.
And the cost of dragon food alone must be
exactly.
enormous.
I know. It's, that's just outrageous.
It's outrageous.
I think the
we have a
staying
dog
power.
food. We have a Purina company, right? Like 2 blocks from the dungeon.
Oh, dog
they're
food's
very
good for a
helpful.
dungeon. Yeah, that's good.
There are no dungeon food or dragon food manufacturers.
That's
you have
right.
to go with dog food.
You got to.
Yeah, even just perusing FetLife, like I see dungeons in a lot of larger cities, like you said, but I think you're right. The staying power is a big problem too, because I've seen a lot of them come and go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they come and go for multiples of reasons. A lot of times it is because a municipality may decide they don't want it there, and they will come up with whatever reason they can to get it shut down. Sometimes it's just because the people that opened it didn't know all the ins and outs of things that they needed to do, like get a zoning permit, or get permission, or that they have to meet fire code and, all of that kind of stuff. So, in most communities, there is some sort of, BDSM community. But in many of them, the play spaces are in homes, or they're private, or they're underground.
Sure. Okay.
And you got to jump through a little more hoops to find it and become involved in it.
Thank you for educating me on that. That makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah, because I just seen the FetLife listings. Like, okay, yeah, there's like everywhere I go, I try to look at the FetLife listings. Like, yeah, there's places, but yeah, they're not exactly what you have.
They may not be dedicated spaces. They may be private homes, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I wonder, we have so many folks who have likely never been to a dungeon. Could you describe your dungeon and what is it? What would somebody see when they go into one?
Again, it kind of varies. My space in Denver is in a warehouse park. So I'm basically in a big 3,000 square foot warehouse. And when you come to the front, I've got bars on the windows, and it's just an innocuous purple door. And I have had people over the years tell me numerous times that, they will sit in the parking lot and be worried about coming in. And then you walk in the door and you meet somebody at the entryway window to do whatever it is you need to do to get in. And then you come in and it's like a living room. I have a social area room in the front that's got couches and coffee tables, and I have food and coffee and drink and, that kind of stuff in there. And then immediately to your right when you come in, I have a coat room where you can, thank you, put your, put your coats and your toy bags, and we've got a couple of love sacks in there so that people can do aftercare and snuggle and hang out in there. And then the next room is also kind of a social area that's got couches and things. And then there's like a swinging door that goes into the main warehouse space, and that's where the actual dungeon is with the dungeon equipment. And the dungeon space is, it's about a 3,000 square foot space. And the dungeon space itself is, about 12 or 1400, and then the front half is, a social area. And then in the dungeon, I've got 14 pieces of different types of equipment. I've got crosses and tables and a cage and a hoist, banking benches. And, when the dungeon is open for a play party, it means that the dungeon is available to be used to do kinky BDSM stuff. You just pick your equipment, you do what you want to do, and, that kind of stuff. But a lot of times people, I understand, and I try to understand, actually. It's hard for me because I own it. And to me, it's like, no, this is a nice place. But I understand how people are intimidated to come check out a big, mean, nasty dungeon, when in actuality, we're all actually very nice people. Unless you want us to be not nice to you.
Right, unless that's your thing.
In general, but that has to do with play. But, in general, we try to be nice people, and it's very social. Or at least it is in my dungeon, because it's set up that way. I've been in other dungeons that really don't have like social areas. So people come, they play, and then they all go to like a Denny's and hang out and socialize there. They don't socialize at the dungeon. I set it up so that there is socializing, and I love having food and snacks and drinks and stuff like that. Not alcohol. Alcohol in dungeon's a bad idea. Or at least to me it is. So it is a social club. It's for people to socialize and learn, and also engage in kinky behaviors that they may or may not be able to do at home because of neighbors or space constraints or what have you.
Right. Well, I mean, you walk in that front door and you see all the snacks that you put out, Christine. I mean, you can't help but feel welcomed.
Yeah, it's striking to me that the first thing people see, you talk about this parking lot moment, and we've heard that from other people, even who own diaper stores, that people get stuck in the lot. But if you make it through that purple door, you're seeing a living room, you're seeing a couch, you're not seeing gray stone walls and flaming torches, right? This is a warehouse space with an inviting living room and then a big social area where you are free to just sit and chat. You're not necessarily walking directly into a scene. Yeah, that's helpful. I do wonder too, like, what should I know if it's my first visit, and do I have to do stuff?
Nope. Nobody is ever required to play when they come to the dungeon. Consent, of course, is paramount. So nobody's going to force you to play or do something in the dungeon. You can come and just watch. You don't even have to go in the dungeon. You can hang out up front if you want to. There's a lot of etiquette that people don't understand, which is why, in general, as a private membership club, I make people jump through hoops, and I make people go through orientations, and I make people watch videos to be able to come to the club so that they understand how things are supposed to work at the club, and not faux pas and do something frowned upon, interrupting somebody's scene, touching people without permission, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, people can do whatever they want to do that makes them comfortable. They can wear whatever they want. They can, that sort of stuff. And generally, I tell people, as long as you are respectful of everyone else around you, both of their personal space and, that sort of stuff, you should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I know at some point along here, Lindsay had this idea, somebody had this idea to maybe bring more age players into this space, which sounds like a, maybe not as scary as maybe we think it is on the surface. So I would love to kind of dive into that now, kind of put the age play lens, and now that we have the stage set for what this space is, Lindsay, I'd love to kind of hear, like, where did the idea come from to maybe combine these worlds a little bit more?
So basically I think there were about 4 or 5 of us organizers at the time. It was the end of 2019, so I was still within my first year of the space, and we were we've been hosting these munches. We'd had a couple, private house parties before with our group, but we really wanted to grow the space because obviously Denver has grown so much, and so our idea was a play party, and we knew that those had happened before. At some dungeons, sometimes they'll have very rarely like a Little's night, Little's takeover. So we first decided to just head out to one of the dungeons. We went to the sanctuary. One of the organizers at the time was a regular there. They were also very into BDSM. So helped, kind of introduce us all into there. But we went with the idea of like, okay, this is a space where we can kind of get to be ourselves. So let's try to break those barriers and bring diapers into the space. And I believe our first time ever in there was a TNG night. TNG, for those that don't know, is the next generation. It is 19 to 35-year-olds only and their partners. So if their partners are older, they can go. So it's a bit of a younger crowd space. So we went, we donned our diapers. I remember the first scene I saw was very scary, but a good introduction to the space, and it ended up being totally fine, and I made friends with the person that the scene was with.
Was it scary? Was it scary, like, because, like, were there diapers involved and that part was scary, or was it just a BDSM scene that was scary?
So the scene that I happened to walk into the first time in the dungeon was what's called a scarification scene.
Wow.
I can maybe let people's minds go with that.
I think I get it right off the bat. Yeah.
It involved scarring, and that was the very first thing I got to witness in the dungeon.
All right.
And again, I'm friends with the person that was bottoming for that scene.
Yeah, cool.
So at first it was like, oh my gosh, like this is definitely something intense to walk into. But as I watched, I kind of it kind of clicked in my head like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. It's not something I want to do, but getting to watch other people's play and different kinds of play was really cool. Yeah. So from there, I don't think we did any scenes in particular that night, but just us, I guess call us the diaper crew, went in, and I don't remember exactly how it happened after this. We got asked to run a diaper change station at a Taste of Kink party by Christine. So we got a Taste of Kink is a night that people can go to try different kinds of kinks. They'll have people who are well versed in things like flogging, spanking, electric play that will let you try that kind of play. So we got to do a diaper change station. We brought diapers and we let BDSM folks that were interested and curious try on a diaper. And that ended up going so well. We invited a bunch of the ABDLs in that day to be like, come try some other stuff. Like, we're finally getting a little bit going here. So they came to support us, and we did there were some BDSM people that, they seem really hardcore and into the tough stuff. And they came and tried a diaper, and there were a couple that came up to us and they were like, this is like, maybe not my thing, but like, this is really comfortable. This is comfy. Yeah. Like, I get it. They're kind of like, I get it. It makes some sense to me. So we got to really break some barriers with that, and that was cool to see.
I love the taste of kink idea in general. Right. It was how I got introduced to kink, and was at a sort of event like that. Yeah. And then the fact that, Christine, that you said, hey, diapers are welcome here. Like, sure. I'm curious how you reached that conclusion, Christine. Like, the first time you saw these people running around in diapers, what was your thinking and your feeling about that? And how did you come to a place where you actually invited them to participate in this Taste of Kink?
So, I have always maintained at the sanctuary that people should be comfortable wearing whatever the fuck they want. Aside from the fact that, you got to keep your bottom bits covered in the front social area, just because you don't want any dicks in the dip. But you want to make
that's a T-shirt waiting to happen for sure.
There you go, yeah. But I mean, other than that, I encourage people to go anywhere from nude to, whether it's leather, lace, I don't care, and that includes diapers. And I have at my dungeon, almost every single play party has some kind of theme to it. And I have a number of parties that happen monthly or quarterly, and the Taste of Kink is something that I do every quarter. So I've always encouraged people to wear whatever they want. I want people to feel comfortable in whatever they're wearing. And, people, I had people that have said, oh my God, I'm sorry. I've been trying to come here for 2 months, but I had to save up money for my outfit. And I felt so bad because jeans and T-shirts are totally fine.
Yep.
You don't have to come in leather or straps or lingerie or any of that, but you should feel comfortable in whatever you're wearing. So I've never had an issue with diapers or littles or any of that. We just didn't get them in the dungeon very often. And prior to COVID, the dungeon was open every Saturday night. And every theme that I have on Saturday night is encompassing or welcoming to the entire membership, meaning it does not have a specific theme to it that is to a specific group. It doesn't cater to any specific one group because I don't want anybody to feel like they're excluded on a night, on Saturday nights. And so prior to COVID, the only other parties that I had the TNG parties, and those were on weeknights. And so, like Lynn said, it was the end of 2019, and one of the age players and diaper wearers, predominantly a diaper wearer more than an age player, was a regular member, and they had come up to me and said, "Hey, we want to have a party in the dungeon." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, we want to have a party in the dungeon." And there was another dungeon in town. And I said, "Well, don't they have, Funny Farm? And don't they have?" They go, No. She says, "I want to have a party in the dungeon where we can have like a romper room area where we can have toys and coloring books. But then I also want people to be able to play in the dungeon with a diaper on and just involve the whole thing all at once." And I went, "Okay.
Okay.
I'm totally fine with this, but all I have available is a Sunday night because I didn't have other nights available." I said, "If you want to try a party for Sunday night," and we had recently also been approached by the Spankos. They wanted a party.
Mm-hmm.
And so I offered them a Sunday night. And so it is, like I said, this is the end of 2019. And I said, "We can start it next year and I'll give you 6 months. And if it's something that you want to continue to do after 6 months, we can talk about it." And so we had the first one on the third Sunday of January of 2020.
That was a great year.
Perfect. A time when
Yeah.
nothing at all was happening.
And
Great time for a trial run.
Yeah, my roommate at the time said, "You have a play party on a Sunday?" And I went, "Yeah." I said, "We have to have a guest orientation because I'm sure none of them will be members. And so we'll do all of that." I said, "If they get 20 people, I'll be impressed and happy and that stuff." And that first night, they got like 60 people.
What?
Stop it. What?
Balls to the walls.
For the ABDL age play diaper party?
Yes. And
Wow.
they brought in the people who now own AB Dealer. They brought in mats and they brought in Legos and a ball pit and toys and all this other stuff. And they all loaded all that stuff in and took my middle room and turned that into a romper room, playroom. They had, coloring books and crayons in the front, and the dungeon was open. Needless to say, not hard. And when they said they wanted to do the event, I did tell them the dungeon needs to be open for everyone, that this cannot be an exclusive event. And the main reason I told them that is because I thought, you're not going to get enough people to come to this.
Right.
Regular dungeon folks.
Yeah.
But also, if they wanted it to be a dungeon party where people in diapers were able to play in the dungeon, I thought they probably are going to need some other people in there just playing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So to me, it was a business thing saying we need to have enough people in the door to make it worthwhile to be open, but also, have it be a well-rounded event. And so they had like 60 people in January, and they ended up getting another 60, 70 people in February. And then, of course, the world shut down because of fucking COVID.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I was going to say what momentum, but like they started with that. They
started, and they have just, it's always just stayed.
Wow, Lindsay,
we took a break for COVID, and then the minute we opened back up, they were right back at it.
Lindsay, was this your gig? Was this your doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, me and the ones who run AB Dealer as well were involved in the starting of it, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to have 60 people there?
I mean, I guess our munches hit 50 pretty regularly.
Man.
So I wasn't too surprised. I mean, I thought dungeon is kind of scary, so I expected maybe half, maybe we get 30. So it definitely was a bit of a shock for the first party. But I mean, I know we were trying to get everybody to come because this was such a big new thing for us to get to do.
Right.
So it worked.
I know the general perception that I've heard from a lot of folks, and myself included, is you go to a dungeon for the first time as an ABDL, you were worried you're going to be judged if you know, if you say anything about your kink. So I know when I first went to a dungeon, again, nervous, didn't know what to expect, didn't really have any friends that went with me. So if, I met somebody, for example, there's one guy that I met, he said he's into hypno, which is great. I asked him a bunch of questions about it, went into it. He asked me in return, like, kind of, what's my thing? And I said, age play, trying to keep it as high level as possible, because I wasn't sure really where that would, where that would land. If I say, oh yeah, I'm into diapers, like that wasn't sure how to gauge the room quite yet.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, Lindsay, from before the event even started, the Baby Bash event started, or, when maybe the group of you went to the dungeon, or once the event did start, was there any kind of pushback that you ever received from other members of the dungeon or other members of the general community?
Not from Christine. As she said, she was very welcoming, mostly just concerned on her business end to make sure we got enough people in. But we were so thankful that she was so welcoming. We had definitely heard that some other dungeons in other states and areas had not been, do not receive diapers very well, or don't allow them. So there was that nervousness there, mostly of just, is this going to be okay? And, we just kind of went to rip off the Band-Aid, and it ended up going great for us. But I feel like we've just really helped move that conversation for other dungeons and spaces like this forward, with how well Baby Bash has gone and how much we advertise it. And I'm always talking about it in all the ABDL circles. And I think other people are starting to push to have these kinds of parties at their dungeons if they can. And I think it's starting to move the conversation. And I know I've recently this year actually been approved to start teaching classes at the Sanctuary. So I've been doing that. And my focus at first was on how do we break that barrier between the age players and the BDSM community, and how do we bring it all closer together, because there is, like at the Sanctuary, we've been lucky that it has been so accepting. I think there's some people, that attend there that might not be as accepting, but
right.
My goal as an educator now is to help move it forward of, like, how do we break these barriers down so that most of the littles only go to Baby Bash? How do we help get them to other parties? And how do we make sure these other parties make them feel welcome? And I know there's a really important conversation to be had there, because I know there are a lot of biases and a lot of feelings some people have around age play that might not be well-founded. And so that's kind of what my new focus has been this year.
Yeah, and I think amazing. That it kind of goes both ways, in so much as, we started the podcast by saying there may be people in the age play community who think dungeons aren't for me, or they're too scary, or they have no business in age play, and you can't mix the two, and isn't age play supposed to be sweet or whatever? But the truth is, it's all okay. It's all okay. And kudos to you and to Christine for, like, breaking that taboo. And honestly, I don't know the economics of running a dungeon, but if you said to me, what if I could get 60 people in your dungeon on a Sunday night? That sounds appealing. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that you're getting that kind of draw, so hopefully other dungeons are paying attention and saying, hey, this might be for us. With that said, I'm glad you mentioned that not all dungeons are places that allow diapers, or age play gear. I don't know, but certainly diapers. My encouragement would be to do what I did the first time I went to my local dungeon. Was I went in sort of normal gear. I could have worn fetish gear, I guess, but I did not go in ABDL gear. And I just asked. I wanted to see the dungeon to make sure it felt like a place I wanted to be. And I just asked the people who run the dungeon, hey, do you guys allow diapers here? And the answer was absolutely. We don't do, like, try and keep stuff in the diaper, like if don't pee on the floor, essentially was the message. But absolutely, come do it. You can change your partner on the floor if you want, in front of everybody, if that's what you want to do. But, just keep the liquids in the diaper. But you can ask your local dungeon. And Christine, I'm guessing it's okay to ask a dungeon owner what's okay in the dungeon?
Oh, absolutely. Most dungeon owners are going to want you to ask other than assume. And just to clarify, what their rules are if it's not specifically stated. I've tried to put on my website and general that people can wear diapers to any of my events, but I don't have it in like every event description stuff. However, I do want to say that I have a no ass hat rule at my dungeon that basically I make sure that people know of, and that basically is you are going to respect everybody else for who they are and how they are, and if you can't do that, you don't belong in my club.
I love a no ass hat rule. That's a great rule.
So you're not gonna, if I'm made aware of anybody basically kink shaming anybody else for anything that they do, whether it be wearing diapers or age play, or even if they're into electrical play or blades, or, if somebody's doing something that's not your kink, that's fine. You don't have to approve it, but you basically don't need to talk about it and say anything about it in a negative way while you're at the dungeon, and that sort of thing. So I have my no ass hat rule. I even now have new signs that somebody made for me that said no ass hats allowed, and management reserves the right to determine if you're an ass hat and boot your ass.
Love it.
So I very
Don't
much,
be an
and I
ass
have
hat.
a zero tolerance policy for that, but that's not going to be the case for all dungeon owners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there are, people who it's like, it's my dungeon and I only want this in it. And that's totally fine because that's their dungeon. You don't want to give them your money anyway.
That's right.
If they don't want to support you, you don't want to support them. But it doesn't hurt to, like you said, if you were to go to a dungeon and say, hey, if there's an off night on a Sunday and I could bring in 50, 60 people, would you be open to that? There is absolutely ask. You do not make money running a dungeon. Anybody who thinks you do, I'm like, go ahead, try it. Like, go ahead. Go right the fuck ahead. Just if you don't like the way I do it, open your own damn dungeon, you idiot.
Yeah.
It's just I would not recommend anybody own a dungeon. I'm just going to put that right out there right now.
Sure. Not a moneymaker.
But if somebody is owning a dungeon, always approach them and ask them. It doesn't hurt to ask. But if their answer is negative or it's not what you want, the best thing to do is to just walk away.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do any good to try to then create some sort of a campaign against that space because they're not welcoming, because they're not. Yeah. You know what? If they're not into your brand of kink, just find one who is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'll turn your no ass hat rule back toward the community too, and say it's awesome that you are so open to and interested in the community. And likewise, in the community, we need no ass hats as well. So if you go into a dungeon for the first time and drop your robe and you're there nothing but a messy diaper and there's pee leaking down your leg, you are now like absolutely infringing on other people's right to not participate in your kink, right? So we don't have to tell our listeners, they're brilliant, but
yes.
But what being an asshat is, and you can be an asshat by showing your kink in those ways because it becomes non-consensual.
Yeah, be a respectful ambassador for ABDL.
Be a respectful ambassador.
Yeah, I mean, you're representing ABDL in some way if you walk into a dungeon like that.
Yeah.
And give us, give it a good look. Let people come to you and be approachable, and they can ask questions and just own it. But yeah, be respectful of their space too.
Yeah.
And another theme that I'm kind of hearing here is, yes, when somebody's coming to a dungeon or some play party or something like that you're gonna. Generally, you'll be vetted, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to be looking into you a little bit, different practices at different places, but that goes both ways too. Make sure that the space you're going to, as an attendee, you can vet them too, right? Christine, would that be fair? Like before you go to a new space, ask around. Like, does the place have a good reputation?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, in general. I mean, it's not like there's a Google page for dungeons. I'm not on Google. Some dungeons are. I am not. Yes, definitely. If you have the opportunity, ask around other people and find out what the vibe is like. We have dungeon spaces in Denver are, I'm not going to say plentiful, but we have more than a lot of other cities. And I tell people that I never view any of the other dungeon spaces as competition because every dungeon basically has the vibe that is more reflective of their owners. So like we have a space that's very rope centric. So if you like rope, you go there, but they have other stuff too that's not necessarily rope. So feel them out. We have another space that's totally different kind of a layout. There's another space in Colorado. They all have different vibes to them. So if you want to find a space, look around and ask people. And, if you have friends, obviously ask them where they go and what they do. But then also know that if you only go to one event at any particular space, that night might not necessarily be totally indicative of what that space is like. Because like I said, I have different parties all the time, and they're going to draw different types of audiences.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And I want to dive into
give a space a few places times to figure it out.
Yeah. And I want to dive into a little more of one of those events like we've been talking about, the baby bash night. So Lindsay, we've kind of touched on a little bit. Christine mentioned, the general layout, some of the cool things that are available. But from your perspective, how does a typical baby bash event go, from start to finish?
Yeah. So like Christine said, when you show up, you've got the big purple door, and just like any other dungeon night, especially for age players for a first time, it can seem kind of daunting. But once you get inside, there's usually a couple of us organizers there greeting people as they come in at the start of the night. You'll see snacks right away, and we actually do special snacks for Baby Bash. We've got Capri Suns, if that's your thing. I know a lot of littles love those, and we've got gummy snacks and lots of stuff like that to kind of ease you in, make you feel comfortable. The front room again has coloring books and couches, so very, very chill vibe to come into and relax, socialize, meet some people. So then you get to the middle room, which we've talked about. That we've converted that into the play space for littles. So those who are more into the age play aspects of age play. But we've got a ball pit in there. We have Legos and blocks and just a whole bunch of toys for people to play with. There's usually somebody who does a read aloud. So they'll gather people around to read stories. It's a much more headspacey sort of area for people that just want to zone out, little out, and enjoy that space with friends. It's a nice spot to get to do that. And then in the back, we do have the dungeon. And as Christine said, we do have that open for play. And some of us that are, not just into ABDL, but also BDSM, will get up to some shenanigans. I love giving a good impact scene. We have a special area that we kind of close off for diaper changes, since it is kind of more specific to that night. So people can go and do that in private. And then we also section off a small area for pet play, because we've been trying to kind of make our event more age play and pet play, so that the pet players also have a party to come to where they can feel welcome to be themselves. So we put a bunch of mats down and have like a little area they can romp around, play fetch and mosh, do those things that pups and other pets love to do.
Amazing.
And there's so much crossover. Here in Denver, we have a big diaper pup scene, so we have a lot of crossover with them.
We just did an episode on the overlap between ABDL and pet play. That's
Last
wild.
episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been trying to turn DLC more into like Denver Littles Crawl and pet play. Like we want to bring them in as well, so they have a space to be themselves. We just want everyone to feel comfortable. But yeah, that's basically the vibe. Party goes from like 7 to midnight. Dungeon closes at 11:30, so we can start kind of cleaning up. But yeah, every third Sunday we're just there doing our thing. Some people enjoy the BDSM stuff. Some people just want to play in the little room and socialize.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's also a dry event,
Yes.
so to speak, for a diaper party, but it's alcohol dry anyway.
Yes.
And that's not something that every dungeon does. It's obviously up to the dungeon how they're going to handle that. But I would encourage folks, especially if it's your first time going to a dungeon, to go without anything sort of assisting you in that way. Because yes, you might be nervous, but a dungeon is a place where, things should be really clear, and you want to make sure you understand and know all the rules of consent that you might learn and those sorts of things. So depending on what dungeon you go to, up to them, but certainly the first time and as you're learning the ropes, I would encourage you to go fully sober. I also want to know from both of you, One of the things we encourage people on this podcast to do is to find their own way to build community. If somebody wanted to start their own age play event at their local dungeon, maybe they're not a dungeon owner, maybe they're somebody who goes or has been a number of times, how might you encourage them to approach that process?
I can start. I think doing kind of what we did, come to the dungeon, don't have high expectations, but get a feel for it, like we've said, and talk to the dungeon owner and just be upfront about it. Just say, hey, is this welcome here? I think first, and then approach the topic of how can we get a party started here? What do you need from us? And then from there, I would highly encourage anyone wanting to do this not to do it alone. Hosting these parties is a big commitment. We can't do it with just one person. There's a team of us, and volunteers can't do it without volunteers. So have a group of people able to help back you up.
Yeah, gosh, you had probably 20 bins of different things that you brought over, whether they be balls for the ball pit or blocks. Yeah. That was an endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of setup.
You need roadies at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a group of volunteers in our Discord that we hit up every week to see who's available and who can come just help us out.
Yeah. Although I don't want that also to be a block in the sense that you don't have to bring 20 bins worth of stuff, right?
No.
You can do a coloring station. You can do some way to welcome people that says this is what this is for, without having to do all of the stuff, but all the stuff you're doing is awesome. I just don't want anybody to think you have to have nailed all that to do your first try.
Oh, for sure. Like I would encourage, I think just tell any of those that are more age play oriented to, bring their own stuffy. That can be, you don't need much else to have as a toy to play with others, to engage with others in the headspace. Just ask everyone, bring a stuffy with you. Mm-hmm. That's enough to get started.
One thing that I've done with a group of friends here locally, go to the dungeon and they have this tall bed, and then you can kind of go under there and it's like a cage. So the bed's like pretty far off the ground, and they've called this my group baby jail. So you go in the little cage and you sit under there. You have coloring books, you have soft blankets, stuffies. That way it's kind of like this confined space, almost like away from all the action. Yep. So after doing some other scenes to start the night, kind of to wind down, they would go to this baby jail, and I could read stories and just have like this little space for just us.
Yeah.
Also, dog gates make great playpens. Collapsible dog gates. So if you happen to have one of those, you now have a playpen for your party.
So funny enough, the pet play area, we do actually have a little dog gate kind of thing that we do set up. But maybe a slight tangent, but on the baby jail thing, there is a cage at the dungeon, and we have used it for something similar to that. We usually call it baby jail.
Baby jail.
Love it.
If someone, someone that we have consent with and everything is misbehaving, we might put them in the baby jail and shut them in there for a little bit. We've done that.
That's
so
fun.
Just fun things that we can do with the dungeon equipment that's already there.
Yeah,
that's
for sure. I wonder, Christine, from your perspective, if somebody was thinking about going to their local dungeon owner and suggesting this, do you have any advice for them?
If you're going to go ask if you could have a party there, one, be aware of what their schedule already kind of looks like. So you're not going in going, yeah, I want to have a party here on a Saturday night, because they're going to probably tell you no. So have a clue a little bit about what their schedule is, and try to do something like that. Attend something there if you can, just so you have a lay of the space. But then also do some research in your community as to, if you were to have a party, how many people would want to go. Because if you decide you want to do this, but you haven't really talked to anybody else, and then you go to a dungeon and, hey, yeah, we really want to have this party here, and then you have the party and 10 people show up, you're never going to have another party. So you want to kind of have all your ducks in a row so that you can provide information and answer questions about things that the dungeon owner might ask. We've always had a diaper changing station, and said this is where we want people to change diapers, so that you're not doing it on all the equipment, or have a dedicated space for it. So find out if that's something that they want or are able to do. But for the most part, yeah, just tell them what it is you want, when it is you might want it, and know that if you're going to plan one, make sure you have at least 6 weeks of time to give people, because for a lot of people who are into age play or diapers, that is a very specific need, very specific group of people, and you need to give them as much time as possible to put it on their calendars so that they'll actually. If you're going to try to do something very specific to a niche and you try to throw it up 2 weeks, sorry, you're not going to get as many people as you want or need just because on their calendar. Yeah, make sure that you give yourself enough time to promote and get word out about whatever means possible. And if anybody listening to the podcast is approaching another dungeon space owner, they are totally welcome to throw me under the bus and say,
Nice.
Hey,
Wonderful.
If you have questions about throwing a party like this, contact LoveSlave and ask her how Baby Bash is going, how that happened. And I'll be happy to tell them, that it is a feasible party, that it's financially, at least in Denver, financially worth doing. And that way I can also tell them if they don't have a no ass hat rule that they.
That's such a generous
That's
offer. I
incredibly
love that.
kind of you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can see where like your key talking points are like, how is it going to be safe for the people who are there? How is it going to be safe for my equipment and my space? And how many people can you get to make it worthwhile? And if they have that reassurance from you that actually these parties are great, they're great for my space, they're great for the people who come, and they're very worthwhile, I can see where that would get them over the hurdle.
Yeah. So one final question for both of you that I wanted to throw out there, and this is kind of setting aside the Baby Bash or other similar events that are specifically for age play. But if you are, let's say, an ABDL or age play person out there that is just curious about going to a dungeon, why should they go? Like, what benefits can they gain from going? Lindsay, maybe start with you.
I like this one.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I was so glad the first time I went, even though it was a little nerve-wracking. I mean, A Taste of Kink is such a great one to start with. And I mean, the reason is I don't like keeping myself in a box. Like, I came into this community knowing diapers were like my big thing. I'd known for a long time that I was into diapers. I'm very much a DL, but I had other interests as well, a little more BDSM inclined, and not specifically like impact play or anything, but just that sort of dom sub role in the scene. So I wanted to explore that, and I ended up loving impact. And at that first Taste of Kink, I got to try electric play, and that is my second favorite kink now. I fell in love with it. I have my own kit now. It is so fun. And even do my own tasting with it with friends, which has been a blast. It's been so fun learning it. I guess in my opinion, unless it's something you really, really don't like, and it is just the hardest of no's for you, I just open myself up to try everything twice. That's just kind of my motto coming into the kink space. I want to try things and find what I enjoy in this space. And if after the second time I don't like it, it becomes a hard limit. And that's worked for me and has helped open my mind to new ways to play. And I can bring these types of play back into ABDL and age play. I've gotten to do electric scenes like at Capcom after getting introduced to it at Dungeons. I brought a TENS unit and I brought my Violet Wand to Capcom and got to do some scenes with friends. It was so much fun, and it just added to that experience. So I think getting yourself out there and getting to try these things can just broaden your kink horizons and see that there's so much more out there than just the soft, cuddly age play.
And Christine, from your perspective, why should someone go to a dungeon?
Well, as somebody who's been in the kink community for over 20 years and dungeon for a lot of that time, one of my favorite things about the world of BDSM is that the umbrella encompasses so much. It's not just about whips and chains and floggers. Oh my. And people have the opportunity to pick and choose what you want to be involved in. There is no, oh, you're not kinky or you're not unless you do this, this, and that. No, it's whatever you decide you want to do and what you want to take part in is totally fine as long as you're good with it and the people that you're playing with are good with it. And it's a community that you will find if you get involved in it. You can find lifelong friends and people who will support you in all of the various weird shit you might be into. Where we all know that, Carla, who works with you in the office, may not be too keen on what you do on a Saturday night at the dungeon, but the other people at the dungeon will love you for it.
Yeah.
You will find people who are a lot more welcoming and accepting of things that are the norm outside of the BDSM.
Yeah.
And so there are multitudes of different communities. Before I got involved in BDSM and kink, I was very active in the Society for Creative Anachronism in the SCA. And that is where I had found, my groups and that sort of stuff until Denver, and then got involved in the kink. But finding a community where you feel accepted and allows you to be yourself is a wonderful thing to find.
It's life-changing.
It is.
You're not going to find that. It's not always easy to find that, but very often you can find that in the kink community if you're not an asshat.
That is an important rule.
It's important.
Yes. Yeah. And in age play, it really, some of the advice that we've given on this podcast before is, CapCon. It's this transformational experience.
Yeah.
Going to an ABDL store. That's a great experience.
Yeah.
This is another one, though.
Yep.
And maybe the space isn't geared specifically towards age play, but it's a great general kink space where you can find that community. And, I think if you can go out there and have these new experiences, as Lindsay said, and then, gain community, as Christine said, that's a huge, huge step on your kink journey. And I know for me personally, my own story, so my why, it really made me a more well-rounded kinkster in general. I started with ABDL and age play in general. I met a lot of friends in that space. I've gone to CapCon, but really when I went to my first dungeon event, I had a dungeon etiquette class, before the first play party, the negotiating class, learning terms like informed or enthusiastic consent, aftercare, all these different parts of kink that really do transfer over to age play, but I had never really had that orientation coming through the age play route. So I feel like having gone to a dungeon now and learning about, some of the things that I like through things like an exploratorium, in my case, that's the taste of kink for the dungeon that I've been to. And then having these terms now to hold a better scene, be a better, be a better scene partner, and then taking those lessons back to age play in general, it's just been a great, great transformational moment for my life and my own kink journey. So I would definitely recommend that people, be open to it. And as Lindsay said, try it twice and just see what's out there for you. You never know. Yeah. So RY, for you to kind of wrap this up, I'm curious, why would you go to a dungeon?
At first I went to a dungeon because I knew that my partner was into BDSM dynamics and I didn't know what that meant. And 50 Shades hadn't come out to give me a terrible idea of what it meant yet. So I wanted to find out what is doing it for this person. How does it work, So chasing that was what it started as. What I discovered once I got there was far more interesting. Though that was well worth it. It was, imagine if somebody offered you, hey, would you like to learn how to go cross-country skiing and then learn how to paint a portrait and then learn how to write a great poem for slam poetry in the same evening? You'd be like, hell yeah. What, are you kidding? In 4 hours? I sure would. I don't know how to do any of those things. How much life can I live in 4 hours? That's great. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like one of those food halls where you can choose from any of these amazing restaurants, you go in and you get to see, and if you want to, play in this whole series of human emotional experiences and expressions and physical expressions. And everything from, love to power exchange, to simple touch, to pain, to absolute joy, to exhaustion. You get to do all of that. like a smorgasbord,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even just watch. You're
Yeah.
allowed to just watch.
Right. Well, that was one of the lessons for me in my first dungeon event was they said in that first class, don't feel pressured to play tonight. And that's exactly what
Yeah.
Christine said earlier too. It was 3 or 4 parties in. I had made closer connections with some people that I trusted that, you know, we kind of built a friendship around. And then we went into a scene, both of us, our first scenes at a dungeon, and, you know, just took it slow and had a great experience together. But I think if
Yeah.
I had done it the first night, it would have been a little more challenging.
Yeah, I did the same thing. You know, I
Yeah.
sat back and watched, and then eventually found my way in. And some of the stuff I tried and didn't like, and I was like, well, now I know. I don't like cross country skiing. I know that now. You know. And then some of the stuff I was like, I didn't know I like this,
Mm-hmm.
and now I want to do it again, or I
found-
want to do it in a different way. Yeah, right.
I found flogging. I'm like, yep, that's fine.
I found hypnotism. Who knew? Who knew that was going to be really fucking hot? Apparently, it is. So yeah. So that's my why. And friends, I know we've hit on so many topics tonight. It was even more than I expected we would. So Lindsay and Christine, just a sincere thank you for coming and teaching us about this beautiful overlap between ABDL and the dungeon world. Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
for offering.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. If folks wanted to get in touch with you, how might they do that? Lindsay, I'll come to you first. Is it okay if somebody want to get in touch with you? And if so, how would they do that?
Absolutely. I encourage people to reach out to me about any of this sort of stuff. We have a lot of locals that reach out as well. I'm on FetLife and Instagram, and I think Twitter or X, whatever it is, as Sincerely Ripley. It's sincerely _Ripley.
Mhm.
And you are more than welcome to message me on any of those platforms. You can also look for the Denver Littles Crawl, which is also on FetLife or Instagram. We're on both advertising our events, but I help run that social media, so you can message us through there as well.
Fantastic. And Christine, how about you? How might folks get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me, profile and
Awesome. Thank you for both of you for bringing your experiences. Teddy, this was an awesome episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this to us.
Absolutely. I was out there in May and I was at the Baby Bash event and just started talking to both of them like, this would be a great discussion.
Yeah, but the problem is now I'm all psyched up to go to a dungeon, and it's the middle of the week, and I can't go to a dungeon, but I'll wait until I can. This is really good. Friends, we have a lot more coming. This is it's an exciting time for Love and Brief because we now have this extended group of us that can work together to produce episodes for you. We care about your thoughts on what you'd like to see. Join the Love and Brief group in FetLife Love and Brief podcast, or you can just, if you want to suggest episode ideas, that's where these come from, right? Mm-hmm. Send it to Resonant Yes at Instagram. Send it to Resonant Yes at Tumblr. Or you can send it to loveandbrief@gmail.com. Pretty soon, we may have a Love and Brief Instagram that you can send it to. We're working on that. Hey, friends, when we recorded this, Love and Brief's Instagram account didn't exist. It does now. Teddy did some awesome work, got it running. So give it a follow. If you're on Instagram, follow Love and Brief. It is a profile just for the podcast. And it's a great place to see episodes the moment they come out because that's where they get published first. FetLife and Instagram first. So that's the place to follow. All right, back to the rest of the podcast. And the other thing I want to tell you about is we have an incredible group of transcribers who actually sit and listen to the episodes. They look at the AI-generated transcripts and they hand fix them because a lot of these terms are not terms AI would know.
Yeah, ABDL does not work.
Yeah, it doesn't work there. So shout out to our scribies, and we had one particular
yes.
MVP this time.
Oh my goodness! So his name is Sprocket DL, and he came up with some IT. I'm not going to pretend to even know how it works, but he came up with a script or something that made this happen really easily.
Yeah,
and just knocked it out of the park. So as of right now, we are all caught up on transcripts. And if you are interested in accessibility and reading those, you can go to apparently http :// not the S. That was a weird glitch.
Just HTTP.
Yes. And it's transcripts.loveandbrief.com.
Yeah. And you might be thinking, I'm just going to type in transcripts.loveandbrief.com.
It doesn't work.
It works sometimes.
It's weird.
But if it doesn't work, type the http : and then transcripts.loveandbrief.com. That's it. We can't wait to bring you another episode coming up here in a couple weeks, but this has been an episode of Love in Brief.